All right, hello everyone. How is everybody today? Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. We're getting towards the end of the week here. Hopefully you guys have been taking advantage of our Black Friday sale and having lots of fun with that, seeing all of our goodies there. And I am gonna go ahead and pull my chat up here, see what you guys are saying out there in YouTube world. All right, so today we're going to be working with our new full cover tips. And I'm really excited about this because I'm really loving these tips. And I'm also loving our new Tip and Jewel Thin Adhesive Gel. So you guys, if you haven't checked this out, if you haven't worked with it yet, definitely check that out on our website. We've got some great bundle deals with our tips as well. So make sure to check on that. Got my chat pulled up. I think we are ready to go here. So I'm actually going to start by grabbing my toenail clippers one more time. I'm going to go through and I'm going to shorten up these nails. And when I'm working with either tips or forms, I always like to shorten up that natural nail as much as possible. So this way I don't have issues with either my form not fitting properly, or like we're going to be doing today, working with the tips and not having the tip fit properly. I always feel like the less of your natural nail you have underneath that tip, the easier things are going to be to apply and to size out and fit. So shortening up those natural nails just a little bit, I always think is going to help you to have a little bit better, better application and a little bit of an easier application, not having to struggle or fight with that tip. So we're just going to go through, shape these up really quick. If you're putting a tip on, you don't have to worry about perfectly shaping that free edge, but I do like to go through, just kind of clean that up so there's not that sharp edge underneath the nail or underneath our tip. And then depending on what shape we're going to be working with, if I'm working with more of an almond shape or a stiletto shape, I do like to come in a little bit more on my sides to really taper that in. Now you want to be careful that you're not cutting up into the nail. You don't want to be cutting all the way back to where the hyponychium and where that smile line connects. You definitely don't want to be doing that. You just want to clean up that free edge. So anything that is not connected to that skin underneath, not connected to that nail bed underneath, you can file that away on the sides. But again, don't try to cut all the way back up into those corners to taper in that natural nail. Only shape up the free edge. So anything that's not connected to that nail bed underneath. Okay. Rebecca's asking, what time did the live start? About 4 minutes ago. So you haven't missed much. So we are just getting started. And we shortened up the nails, shaped them up a little bit. I'm going to go through and I'm going to push back my cuticles nice and quick. And I know you guys, I tell you this every time, but when you're working on the trainer hand, don't skip this step. I know there's really nothing here that we're actually pushing back, but when you're working on a real person, either yourself or on your clients, you always want to make sure that you are pushing back that cuticle. And if you're practicing and kind of working on your trainer hand and you skip that step, a lot of times what happens is you actually forget to do that on your real client. So always make sure to still go through, push back those cuticles, even on your trainer hand, so that way you don't forget. All right, we are going to switch out our sanding band here. I'm going to grab a nice, clean, brand new one. Keep everything sanitary. I'm going to slide that right onto my handpiece here. And then we're going to work at about 4,000 to 5,000 RPMs. And we're going to go through and we're going to prep the cuticle area. So I'm just going to come right up around that cuticle, just making sure that I'm cleaning up any dead protein growth, any cuticle that might be stuck on the nail. And then we're going to feather that bit through the nail. And what this is going to do, you guys, I think I'm at a weird angle here. Let me readjust real quick. There we go. So what this is going to do is, again, clean up around that cuticle area to make sure that we don't have any cuticles still stuck on the nail, but then also removing the shine from the rest of the surface is going to give us a little bit of texture on that nail, and it's also going to help to break up any surface oils that are on the nail. So this way we're going to end up with a, like I said, a slight texture to the nail for our gel to adhere. And then we're also going to have those oils we're going to break up. And we want to be able to remove those oils so that we're not trying to adhere our gel to a oily or a shiny surface. So quick and easy for our prep. We're going to dust off the nails. Give that a quick dust all the way through. And then I'm going to cleanse the nails. And I'm going to use our swipe. And you guys, I know you're going to tell me every time, I need to refill this. And I do. I need to refill my swipe. I need to grab one of our 32-ounce refills and get that refilled. But there's enough in there to do the job that I need to do today. And what that is just basically I pump a little bit of that onto my manicure brush and then I dust and scrub through that nail. So this way it's going to help to remove any of those last little bits of dust from the nail, and it's also going to help to break up those surface oils and help to remove those surface oils. Now, it's also going to help remove any germs and bacteria that are on the nail. So it's very important that you do use the swipe to cleanse those nails so that when we put our tips on, we're going to be applying them to a nice, clean, dry, germ-free, bacteria-free surface. Okay? Now, we are going to be using tips today. I keep talking about the tips. And today we're going to be using our full cover square tips, and I'm going to be using the long version of these. Now, you guys, I'm going to show you. We have 3, 6, I think we have 12, let's see, 3, 6, 9, yes. So we have 12 different styles of tips now. We have the square nails, which again, we're going to be working with today. Let me show you our square options here. So in each of our shapes, we have 3 different lengths. So for the square nails, I'm going to come in nice and close. You can see for our square nails, we have long, medium, and short. So you can use whichever one is going to work for you. Today we're going to be working with the long. We also have, let's see, we've got our coffin shape. So again, you've got the long, medium, and short coffins. You've also got almond shape. So these top ones here, those are our almond shape, again with the long, medium, and short. And then our stilettos, we also have long, medium, and short. So just kind of depending on what style you're going for, we have those different sizes or different shapes. And you guys, let me come back out here. You can see that in each of these, there are a ton of different sizes. We actually have that 00, which is that extra large thumbnail, and then all the way down to a size 13 for those little teeny tiny nails. So you've got all kinds of variety in sizes, so you can choose which is going to fit best for your nails or your client's nails. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something. When you're working with the different lengths, yes, you want to choose a length that is going to work for the length that you're ultimately trying to create. But I want to show you something on our stiletto nails. So if we take a look at the stiletto nail, let me come in here nice and close, see if that'll, there we go. So with our stiletto nails, you can see that lower arch is nice and straight right down through here. Now, if I show you our short stiletto nail, you can see the same thing. That lower arch is nice and straight here, but this area right through here, so from where it adheres to the cuticle out to here is going to be the length of the nail bed. So if you have a longer nail bed, I actually have really long nail beds. If I were to try to use the short version on myself, that short nail, let me see if I can get you guys in camera here. That short nail is not going to cover all the way back to my nail bed. It's not going to cover my natural nail completely. So even if I wanted a short stiletto, I would probably still go with either the medium or the long style because I want to make sure that that tip is covering my natural nail all the way down that side. So just keep that in mind as you're sizing it out. It's not just the length of the tip that you're wanting to create, it's also the length of the nail bed that you're trying to cover. So those are some of the things that you have to keep in mind when you're choosing which style to use, okay? I hope that makes sense. But for today on our trainer hand, we're going to change it up here. A lot of times you guys see me do almond shapes and things like that, but today we're going to use the nice square shape. So a good kind of standard shape here. So when I size my tips out, I want to make sure that they're fitting from sidewall to sidewall. So from this edge right down here all the way to this edge here. And then also, if we look down the barrel of the nail, we want to make sure that it's fitting the C curve of the nail here. Okay, so if we take a look, I'm going to grab a size 3, and you guys actually know what size these ones are, but when we size that tip on there, we're going to set that on there and make sure that, again, it's going to fit from side to side. But then also, if we look down the barrel, get that on there, you want to make sure, and I know that's not a great view there, but that's what we got. So we want to make sure that that tip is fitting that C curve as well. Now, if you feel like maybe it's fitting from side to side, but maybe you have to squish it down on there, maybe you have to put a lot of pressure for that to sit down on there, I would suggest going to a larger size. And with that larger size, it's going to sit nice and flat and flush down onto that C curve, but you can see there is quite a bit hanging off. You can always file those edges off and customize those to make sure that it's going to fit properly onto your nail. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And I'm actually going to go with the size 3 because I think you guys can see right there, size 3. I think this one's going to fit the best. Now, I want to show you guys something. If you take a look at these tips, if you turn them around and look at them, look at the area of the cuticle area. If we turn that around, and that is going to be super, super thin. They're a little bit more flexible in that cuticle area, so you can use a little bit of pressure with them. If you have a little bit of a flatter nail, you can definitely press those on there. You don't want to try to be really squishing those on there because you want to fit the nail as best as possible. But I also want you guys to notice how thin that is. So how just paper thin that is right at that cuticle application area. Versus if we turn that around, you can see from the free edge, you've got a little bit more thickness. It's almost the thickness of what your enhancements should be. So if we take a look at the end of my nails here, that's about the thickness. Okay, and actually, you guys, I have our full cover tips on me right now too. But you notice that you've got that thickness towards the free edge. So probably from about the stress area forward, you've got that thickness and that structure. Whereas by the cuticle area, it's nice and thin and tapered. So when we do apply this, we're not going to have that thick, bulky area back by the cuticle, but we are going to have that structure and that durability all the way through that free edge. Okay, so we're going to go with our size 3s. And actually, I'm going to grab these from my full box here. So we're going to go with size 3s. And you guys, on my trainer hand here, I do know that all of these nails that I'm applying are going to be a size 3. So I'm going to grab, actually, well, I'm just going to grab a couple of them. But when I'm working on either myself or on my clients, if I have a client that I know is going to do the full cover tips every so often, I'll actually size her out and then I'll write down what sizes I'm going to use on her. So that way when she comes in next time, I don't have to spend all the time sizing the tips out. I can just grab those sizes, set them out, and then when she comes in, I can go through if I need to do any customizing, I can customize, and I can clean up those edges a little bit. And you guys, I was using my 150 grit file, but that's kind of my go-to that I always grab. But when I'm doing my customizing, I always like to grab my 180 file buffer combo because this way I can taper in those edges, make this so it's going to fit right up into her cuticle area. And then you can see there's a little bit, maybe I can't, there you go. You can see there's a little bit of a frayed edge in the back. I just use the buffer and I come back up through there and I clean that up. So that way it's just nice and quick and easy. All right, so that one is going to fit up into my cuticle area and it's going to fit right along those edges. It's not hanging over too much, just right up in there. Okay, now I'm going to tell you guys, I have gone through, because I've got some art that I want to show you guys today. So I have gone through, I've sized out some other tips for the rest of the nails, so I'm just going to set those right here. But before we apply these, I'm going to dust off her nails one more time. And notice what I have here. So this is the tip that I just sized out and I just customized. This one, you can see I've actually filed in the back side of that well. The reason that I did that is because we're going to be using our Tip and Jewel Adhesive Thin Gel. And when we're applying tips with a gel, Gel generally doesn't like to stick to that smooth, shiny surface of the tip. So I like to go through one of two things. You got a couple options here. You can either go through with your electric file and that medium sanding band, that same one that we use to prep. You can go through and you can gently remove the shine from that well. That's going to create some texture so that when you do apply them, they're going to adhere really well. Otherwise, you can do a coat of our protein bond right in the well of that tip, or you can do a combination of both. So on this one, I do have the wells etched, and I'm just going to dust that out really quick. And I am going to apply a coat of protein bond in the well. Now, like I said, you can do one of either option. So you can either remove the shine, or you can apply the protein bond, or you can do both. And honestly, I feel like doing both is going to give you extra adhesion. So that's what I usually like to do, but you can do one or the other, your choice. So protein bond is our bonder. Now I am going to use this on the natural nails. I just didn't want to forget to apply it to my wells at this point. So I'm just going through and we're just applying a quick even coat of that all the way through that well. Everywhere that I have removed the shine, that's where our tip is going to adhere to that nail. So again, just applying a nice even coat of protein bond all the way through. Get a little bit more up on that one. All right, so I've got my nails set aside. Now, I do have my nails here that I have cleansed, but because we've been filing a little bit, I do want to cleanse those one more. So just one more time, I'm going to scrub those off with our swipe really quick. And then I am going to go back with my protein bond, and I'm going to apply protein bond to the natural nail now. I do want to make sure that these are nice and dry before I apply the protein bond, so you can kind of see still looking a little bit wet on a couple of these, and then it's going to dry back to that chalky dry look. So we're going to apply protein bond, and I'm actually going to apply 2 coats of protein bond. Anytime I do any kind of an enhancement or an extension, I like to do 2 coats of protein bond because I feel like it's going to give me even a little bit better adhesion. 1 coat would probably work okay, but I do like 2 coats just for kind of, like I said, that added insurance. We'll say added insurance that my product is going to adhere really well. Now, the other thing I want you guys to notice is that I start with my brush in the center of the nail. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do my second coat. I start with my brush in the center of the nail and I work out to the sides, and then I work back up to that cuticle area. The reason that I work like this is so that way I'm not flooding my product onto the skin or onto that cuticle area. If I have a lot of that protein bond in my brush, the majority of it is going to start right in the center, and then I can work that product out to the side. So again, it's not going to flood at the cuticle area, and I'm still going to have a nice even application all the way through. All right. Are you guys ready for the application? Throw some hearts into the chat if you are ready for the application, because I am. I'm excited to show you guys this. Now, one thing that I do want to show you before we start is this is our Touch Cure light. Let me see if I can get it better. There we go. So this is our touch. Whoops, I just bent that the wrong way there. That's okay. But this is our Touch Cure light. It is a mini curing light. So this is what I'm going to use to just freeze my nails into place. So I just have that ready to go here. I can tap the end of it to turn it on, tap the end of it to turn it off. But I like to have that ready to go. So this way, as I'm applying the nails, I can freeze them into place. Okay. So I just wanted to show you guys that. And now we'll go back to a little bit closer view here. So that's what is going on. All right. So we have our tips sized out. And looks like that's going to be our first one. You guys, let me readjust my camera here. Make sure you guys can see. There we go. Okay, so I think that's going to be a good view. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with my Tip and Jewel Thin Adhesive Gel. And, oh, you guys, put 6-7 in the chat there if you're ready to see this. We're almost at 600-700 people. Okay, so we're going to start with our Tip and Jewel Thin Adhesive Gel. I'm going to squeeze a little bit of that into the well of my tip. And you guys, I want to come in a little bit closer. I want you guys to see this. So really close there. So I'm going to squeeze a good amount into the well of my tip and then just kind of scrape that off a little bit. Now, as I apply this, what I do, I'm going to start with the nail. I'm going to show you guys this from the side. I'm going to start with the nail at a slight downward angle. I'm not just going to squish it flat onto the nail. I'm going to start with it at a slight downward angle. I'm going to touch it to the nail, and you can see I'm not right at the cuticle area. Touch it to the nail, and then I'm going to slide it forward. What that's going to do, you can kind of see, is it's going to leave a little bit of that gel on the nail. It's almost coating that nail and giving me a good coat for the gel on the nail to bond to the gel that's in the well. And again, I'm at a slight downward angle. I'm touching that nail down to the nail, or touching the tip down to the nail. I'm going to just slide that back gently. I use my other hand here to just kind of hold that and secure that into place. And then I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on the free edge. And you're going to notice as I put pressure on the free edge, the gel right through here is going to start to adhere all the way down. You want to make sure that your gel is coming all the way to the end and that you're not lifting up that back cuticle area. That's why I keep my thumb back here, so I'm not lifting on that back cuticle. And then once that gel is all the way down to the end of my natural nail, I'm going to turn on my touch cure light and I'm going to just start to cure this into place. And this is basically just going to freeze that nail onto, or freeze the tip onto the nail. So this way I can go through and I can work on the whole set without actually having to put this hand into the UV light like after every application. So just freezing that into place, maybe about 20 seconds or so, until you can tell that that gel is not moving anymore. And sometimes, depending on the client, they may be a little bit more sensitive to heat. So if they are a little bit more sensitive to heat, I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to back out. I would recommend keeping that light, so this is the bottom of my light right here. I would recommend keeping that light about 4 to 6 inches away from the nail, because that way it's going to slowly cure. If you put that light right up on top of that gel, it's going to flash cure it and it's going to probably cause a little bit of heat on that nail. So I always recommend about 4 to 6 inches away. But for today's demo purposes, I have to keep this right up close so that you guys can actually see exactly what's going on. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just apply all of our nails now. Same thing, I'm going to squeeze a little bit of that Tip and Jewel thin adhesive gel into the well, all the way through. I'm going to take that tip, set that down at a slight downward angle, touch it down, drag that across the nail, get a little bit of a layer of that gel onto the nail. We're going to set that down, put some pressure at that cuticle area, slide back to the cuticle, and then again I'm going to use my thumb to hold it into place by the cuticle, and then I'm going to use my other hand here to rock that down until all of that gel meets up to my natural nail. Making sure everything is adhered. We'll go ahead and turn on our touch cure light, freezing that into place. And you guys, sometimes it's easier to have the light on the stand. Sometimes, depending on how I work, I want to maybe use the light just by itself without it in the stand, and you can do that as well. Now you can see a little bit of that gel did squeeze out. I'm not too concerned about that, but if you do have any of that squeeze out, if you're able to clean that off before the light cures it, if you notice that before the light cures it, use your orange wood stick and clean that off. Otherwise, I'm going to show you guys how to prep that cuticle area a little bit more so that you're going to get that really flush application right down to that natural nail, and we'll be able to remove any of that gel that may have squeezed out a little bit. Okay, grab our next tip. Squeeze a little bit of that gel into the well. And again, starting at that slight downward angle, touch the tip down, drag through. Now you guys, you can see there's a little dollop of gel that kind of squeezed out the backside. I'm going to come right behind that. So that's why I don't start right at the cuticle area. I start a little ways away, because in case any of that gel does squeeze out, I don't want to be pushing that gel up to the cuticle area. So now I can start right behind there, touch my tip down, slide back just a little bit, and then I can rock that tip forward. And I do see that I've got a little bit of that gel squeezing out the back, so I am going to use my orange wood stick, clean that up a little bit, and then I can continue to rock that tip down, making sure that it is adhered. Turn on my light. We're going to freeze that into place. And again, you guys, I do leave just a small amount of space in between the tip and the cuticle area. So this way, we can file that tip so it's flush down to the natural nail, but you're not going to be gluing it onto skin. You're not going to have that gel coming in contact with the skin, and you can get it right up to that natural nail. So nice and flush down to that natural nail. Okay. Again, freezing that into place. We'll go on to our next nail. Actually, you guys, I don't think I held that long enough on this one. So I'm just going to freeze that a little bit more right down on there. Okay, I think we're good on that. And we've got our last one. You guys, I'm going to back out here just a little bit so that way you can kind of see this a little bit more kind of full detail. So again, squeezing out a little bit of that gel into the well. Starting with my tip at a slight downward angle, touch that natural nail, scrape through, apply some of that gel to the nail, touch it back down, slide back to our cuticle area, hold that with my left hand, rock that down with my right, secure that down there, turn on my light, and we're going to freeze that into place. Just setting that tip into place. All right. Guys, I'm trying to see if there were any questions in the chat. If you guys do have questions, you can always put those into the chat, and we've got a great team of moderators that does help to answer a lot of your questions. Hopefully I can answer the questions as we're teaching here, but I don't always see everything that goes on in the chat. So if you have questions, go ahead and pop them in there. All right, so all of our nails are set into place at this point, but they're not fully cured. So what I need to do is I actually need to pop that whole hand into the full UV LED light, and I'm going to cure that for 60 seconds. Now, you guys, by the magic of the internet, I have a hand that's already cured out and ready to go. So you guys don't have to sit here and wait for that light to cure. But I have tips on here that I've actually gone through and I've prepped these and they're ready to go, but I do want to show you what our next step will be. So once these nails come out of the light, they are fully cured, but you can see we do have a little bit of that, that tip. It is pretty flush down to that natural nail, but I am going to go through with my electric file and I'm just going to gently blend that out a little bit. So I'm going to start with my my medium grit sanding band, and I'm going to work at about 5,000 to 6,000 RPMs, and we're just going to come right up around that cuticle area, and I want you guys to see this. I'm keeping my bit on the tip. I'm not actually filing back onto that little bit of natural nail. This is how I'm going to blend out the tip. If you try to go all the way back and file on that natural nail, you're first of all going to probably cause a little bit of damage to that natural nail, and you're not going to get that proper blend because it's going to be filing that natural nail as well as the tip. So you want to make sure you're keeping that bit right on that plastic, so right on the tip, and just kind of working in short little strokes all the way through. And then you'll start to notice that blending. Okay? After I've blended it, I'm going to go through and just like we did our prep, I'm going to feather my bit all the way through because I'm going to be doing a gel polish application over the top of this. And like I was telling you guys earlier, gel does not like to stick to a smooth and shiny surface. So I want to make sure that I've got a nice textured surface for my product to adhere to. Now, I'm going to show you one other bit that I like to use when I'm blending, and this one I actually really like to use if I have a little bit of that gel that does squeeze out. So let me show you here. I'm going to switch these bits out. The other bit that I like is our diamond cuticle square bit. You can see it's got a little bit of a flat top right on there. I'm still going to keep my e-file at about 5 to 6,000 RPMs. I'm going to work right up around the cuticle area. So this bit is going to do a really good job of removing any of that extra gel that may have squeezed out. Just that little tiny bit right on that edge. But you guys, let me show you on that other nail that we did have. Which one was it here? The other nail that we did have a little bit of that gel squeeze out. I can use this bit to really clean that off. And you guys, this is the gel. This is not cuticle. This is not the natural nail or anything. It was just that little bit of gel that squeezed out the back. So this is going to work really good for cleaning that up right around that cuticle area. And it is a very gentle bit. You guys, you can see even on my skin, even using it up on the edge, it's not going to cut my skin, but it is going to help to remove that last little bit around the edges. All right, so our nails are prepped. Now I am going to go through and just file a little bit. You can see there's a little kind of a tag right on the end from when the tips are formed, and maybe just a tiny little bit of that tip hanging off the edge. So I'm going to use my 150 grit file. I'm just going to go through, clean up my edges if I need to, anything that's hanging too low, and then I'm going to just give that a quick little shape. Now, if you needed to use the long tips to fit your natural nails and to fit that nail bed, you can actually cut these shorter if you want to. We do have the short version of these, so you can use that as well. But sometimes we do need to go a little bit shorter, start off a little longer and then go shorter. So you can definitely do that. I don't need to with this set. We're going to keep them nice and long here, but just kind of giving it a quick shape up. Now at this point, before we get into our art, I'm going to dust off those nails one more time, making sure everything is nice and dust free as much as possible. And then we're going to go back through with our swipe one more time. Again, pump that onto my brush. And we're going to give those nails a quick cleanse. So this way, again, we've got a nice clean, dry surface that we're going to be working on. Dust-free, oil-free, germ-free, and all that good stuff. So this way, our gel is going to adhere really well over the top. Now, depending on kind of your or your client's daily habits, I personally just have gel polish over mine. I don't feel like I need that extra strength. If you do feel like you need extra strength, you can add a coat of the fiber gel, or you could even do acrylic or hard gel over it. But honestly, I don't feel like these tips need a lot of extra support. If you're doing gel polish over them, that's going to give them a little bit more durability as well. So you have options at this point, but I am going to go through with a coat of our protein bond just to give that nail a little bit more adhesion when we do our gel polish. So same thing like I was doing before. I don't start right up by my cuticle area. I start a little ways away and then kind of work up to my cuticle and then pull down and out to the sides. Now for this application, we only need one coat of the protein bond. When we were working on the natural nail, then we did use 2 coats. But for this one, just 1 coat is going to work fine. Now, we're going to be using our gel polishes, and I'm going to do a couple of different designs for you guys today. We're going to be doing some, you guys, I hate to say it, but the holidays are coming here quick, and I'm going to be doing some candy cane inspired ideas for you guys today. So we're going to start with a coat of our gel polishes, and we've got the red one here. This one is called Combat Anime. And I'm going to start just polishing this on, and you guys, nice thin coats. You don't want to try to create too much bulk with your gel polish. You don't need to. You can see how even just this one coat, let me come in nice and close. This one coat of color is really going to be pretty good coverage. So if you need to do a second coat, you can do a second coat, but a lot of times, especially with my design work, depending on what I'm going to do for my designs, a lot of times I'll just do 1 coat. And maybe we'll just cap that edge just a little bit. Okay. Our second 2 nails here are going to be with Nervana, which is our white. And again, you guys, you can see that with that white, it is a very bright white. Absolutely gorgeous, very rich. Let me tuck in on that free edge a little bit here. But again, if you don't need a second coat, don't worry about applying a second coat. 1 coat is pretty good coverage. Now you guys, I'm going to tell you, if I'm not doing design work, most of the time I do use 2 coats, but just depending on the design, if I don't need a second coat, I won't waste the time or the effort or the product to apply that second coat. All right, our third nail here is going to be another white nail. We're going to tuck that right up into the cuticle. And you guys, you can see how as I'm working up into that cuticle, that brush is a little bit more rounded. So when I press that down, it kind of flares it out a little bit. And I can tuck that right up into my cuticle area and get nice and close to that cuticle. Now keep in mind though, you don't want to be going right onto the cuticle. You want to leave just a tiny little hairline space in between there. So that way you're not going to be touching the cuticle with gel polish. Like I was talking about earlier with our protein bond, it is still a chemical. Everything that we're using here today is a chemical. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that off the skin as much as possible. I think I'm going to grab just a little bit more of that color and we'll tuck right up into that cuticle. Now, you guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm working a little bit backwards than how I normally work. A lot of times I start with my pinky nail and work into the center because do you see as I'm working, I'm getting awfully close to that white nail with my thumb. And I'm trying very hard to not bump that or ding that. So I think when I do my second coat, I'm going to go back to my normal procedure of working from pinky into the pointer. Okay, so we're going to go into our light. Now for our first nail, I'm just going to freeze this for 30 seconds. So for our first nail, we're going to do a glitter press. And I know you guys have had a lot of questions about doing a glitter press with our new gel polishes. When you cure them for 30 seconds, they're going to still have a tacky surface. So you can do your glitter press into that tacky surface. And the glitter that I'm using today is called Mother-in-Law's Tongue, which is one of my favorite reds for the holidays. It is a very, very fine glitter. So this is going to give you a really good coverage, but it's not going to give you a lot of texture. Okay. So again, I've only cured this nail for 30 seconds. I'm going to take my glitter. I want to make sure you guys can see this here. There we go. Now notice how I'm holding the hand. I'm keeping these other nails out of the way. So this way I don't accidentally get glitter on these other ones. So I'm going to work just right under here. Come in nice and close. I'm using a makeup brush, and it's just a cheapy little eyeshadow brush, nothing fancy. And I'm going to tap into my glitter and then onto the nail, into the glitter, onto the nail. I go back and forth and back and forth. So this way my brush is not going to pick up any of that tacky residue from my nail. Once I have glitter on that whole nail, then I can go through and kind of tap it down a little bit more, really secure it down into that tacky surface. And then I can just gently dust off the excess. Okay. Now at this point, I do like to go back into the UV LED light, or if you're just working on one nail, a lot of times I will just grab my touch cure light that we were using before, and I'll go through and just kind of freeze this back into place. What this does is it's gonna help that glitter adhere a little bit better into that tacky surface. So when you go to top coat it, it's not gonna come off on your brush. So I do like to go through maybe 10, 20, 30 seconds, or if you're working on the full hand, you could put this hand back into the full UV LED light while you're working on the other hand. Okay. After that, I have just a fluffier makeup brush. So the first one that I was using was more of an eyeshadow brush, and then another fluffy eyeshadow brush is what we'll call them. But make sure you're not using these on your actual eyes. Use them just for your nails. Just going to go through and I'm going to dust off that extra glitter. But now you can see that glitter is hanging on to that tacky surface. Now, if you feel like you need a second coat, you can add a coat of your base coat, cure that for 30 seconds, and then you can apply a second coat of the glitter. On this nail, I don't think I need to do a second coat of glitter. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to seal this with either a base coat or the top coat. When I work with my glitters, I like to do 2 coats of a clear to seal those in. So this way, on my first coat, it's going to basically encapsulate that glitter. And then when I do my top coat, that's going to really create a smooth, shiny finish. So again, with the glitter application, with the glitter press, I like to do 2 coats of a sealant, whether it's top coat or base coat at this point. So right now I used a base coat, and then I will do a top coat at the end. And you guys, I'm going to wait until the end to do my final top coat on all of these, so that way we can get to some other designs here real quick. So just gonna freeze this into place, but again, make sure that you do a full cure all the way through with your final top coat, okay? All right, so that was design number 1. Design number 2, again, if I needed a second coat of my gel polish, I could go ahead and do a second coat. For today's demo purposes, I'm not gonna do a second coat, and I think it's gonna cover just fine. But I can see just a tiny little edge right up here. You know what? Let's go ahead and do a second coat, just because I want this to look really nice for you guys. So let's go ahead and do a second coat. We might as well do a second coat all the way through on our other nails as well. So again, second coat really is going to make our white flawless. And let's go ahead and do our second one here. See, that one even got a little bit of glitter on there, so it's probably a good thing that I'm going to do a second coat here. So we'll go through second coat, and let's see, I think I'll do a second coat of the red as well, just to make sure that we've got good full coverage for our design. And again, the red was Combat Anime, the white was Nervana. And you guys, I'm telling you, if you don't have this red yet, oops, there's a little fuzz in there. Yeah, you guys, if you don't have this red yet, this is definitely going to be a hot color for the holidays. By the end of the holidays, I am so over reds because everybody loves red around the holidays. But it is a beautiful Christmassy red, beautiful, kind of a cherry almost red. All right, so we're going to get that back into the light. Now, for our next design, I'm going to be using our stamping plates. And I'm not going to be stamping with my gel polishes, but I am going to be matching this color. So I'm going to be using Combat Anime. We have the gel on the nail. I'm going to be using Combat Anime in the traditional air dry polish. So you guys, you have lots of options, but notice they are matching. So we do have the gel polish and the air dry polish, so you can use however you need to use them, okay? Now, we're going to do kind of a fun kind of a take on the candy cane. You guys, you can see I've got my stamping plate. I don't have a candy cane design, but what I do have is some animal print. And we're going to create an animal print candy cane look. So I am going to just quickly cleanse off my stamping plate. Whoops, wrong bottle. That was my empty one. I'm going to grab a little bit of my Onto the Next. And we're going to take a little bit of that, just cleansing that stamping plate really well, making sure my plate is nice and clean. And I'm going to grab my stampers. Now, you guys, I want to show you this. So we've got our stamper, and it is nice and clear and shiny. With these new polishes, I actually like to use more of a matte finish to this. So to get that matte finish, I just used a little bit of our ManiQ Cleanser on the lint-free wipe, and I just gave it a quick cleanse just once. You don't need to do it over and over, but just once. And just that's enough to give it a little bit more of a matte finish to it. So it's going to be a little bit easier to pick up these colors. Now I am also going to grab my stamping cleaning tool here. And this is just a sticky kind of a sheet. I'm going to make sure that my stamper is nice and clean. There's no dust on there or anything. We are ready to go. Our nail is cured out. Now you guys, our gel polishes do have a slight tacky surface to them, just slight. So it's enough to grab onto our glitter onto that first nail, but it's not going to interfere with our stamping and our traditional polish. It's actually going to adhere really well. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to find my little scraper card. We're going to grab a little bit of that Combat Anime. Now you guys, I always make sure that I have everything ready to go here, because when you're stamping, Everything has to go quickly. So you want to make sure you've got everything ready, everything cleaned off and good to go. So we're going to take our color. Whoops, you guys, let me make sure you guys can see this here. So again, we're going to take our color, brush that onto our stamp. I'm going to use my card. I'm going to scrape. I'm going to wipe my stamper off. I'm going to take my tool, pick up my design, and I'm going to just set that right down onto the nail. And you can see through that stamper. So you even though we took that shine off of it, you can still see that nail through. Okay. And to clean up around my edges, I'm going to grab my Polish Perfector detail brush. I'm going to pump a little bit of my polish remover right into the cup up there, and I'm going to use my brush to clean up around the edges. So any of those little bits that are kind of those little flyaways around the edge, just clean those off quick and easy. Okay, again, take a little bit of that polish remover, cleaning up around my edge. And again, you guys, I'm going to wait to top coat these all at the same time. But at this point, that nail, that polish is dry. It still does have that little bit of a tacky surface to it. So just know that, but that polish does dry really, really quickly. So we're going to wait to do our top coat until the end. Let's do another take on the candy cane. And you guys, this is a really fun technique. If you haven't seen our new ombre pat gels yet, you guys are missing out, but this is the red one. This one is called Textify My Love. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to grab my little claw tool here, and I'm also going to grab our masks. So the masks come in the kit, and what these are, they're just little stencils. So I am going to use a couple of these. Now they come in different shapes and different sizes here. So I'm going to use, you guys, they come with kind of more that elongated smile line, and it's got the chevron, it's got the little bit more shallow smile lines. Use whichever one works for you, but I'm going to use the little bit more shallow smile line. And you can see, can you see? If you look here, we've got some that are a little bit wider, and then if you go down the length of it, there's some that are a little bit more narrow. I'm going to use a few of these, I think. I'm going to grab, kind of roll that off the edge there, and I'm using a tweezer. Just for me, it's a little bit easier. I'm going to take one of those wider ones. We're going to set that right in the middle here, and I'm going to kind of angle that a little bit. I'm not going to create a smile line at this point, but I'm going to use that mask to create some negative space. So where our mask is, that's where our white gel is going to show through. I'm going to grab a couple of those smaller ones from down at the bottom. Grab that. We're going to bring that up to the top here. You guys kind of see where I'm going with this? We're going to be doing a candy cane look. And we're going to do one more of the smaller ones. And you guys, you can use whichever sizes you want. If you want the larger sizes, you can use the larger sizes. If you want the smaller sizes, use the smaller sizes. But I'm going to secure that down on there. And then I'm going to take my ombre gel and my little claw grip tool here. And where did I put my sponges? Let me see here. Hang on a second, guys. I've lost my box of sponges. All right. So I'm going to show you something here real quick. The kit does come with a full box of sponges like this. And I actually like to take them, and when I'm working in smaller areas, I'll actually grab my scissors and I will go through and I'll cut that in half. So if you want a smaller piece, you can use a smaller piece, or if you want to cut it one more time, you can use that as even smaller piece. So a lot of times when I'm doing more detail work or smaller areas, I'll cut that sponge into that smaller piece so that I've got a little bit more control of where I'm applying my gel. So I'm going to just take that ombre gel, I'm going to pat my sponge down in there, and you'll notice that there is a little mesh over the top. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera very well, but there's a little mesh on the top there, and that helps to regulate the amount of gel that you can pick up with that sponge. So you're going to get a little bit more of an even application. So I'm going to start and I'm just going to sponge this right through any of those white areas. Now, because we've got that mask on there, I don't have to be super careful, but I do like to make sure that I'm trying to keep that product off the skin as much as possible. So this way we're not getting product on the skin. But now when I get up to that cuticle area, having this smaller piece of sponge, I'm going to be able to get right up in there and again, keeping that product off of the skin. So just tucking that up in there. Now, if you do get a little bit on there, I see a tiny little bit that I got up in there, just grab your Polish Perfector detail brush and you can clean that off right away. So just quick and easy. Again, we'll grab a little bit more of that gel, going through, sponging that on, loading that up onto our nail. Now, if you feel like you need a second coat, you can do a second coat. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll either hit it with our Touch Cure Light, or if I'm working on a full set and I've got two hands that I'm working on, I'll just pop this hand into the light, into the full UV LED light and cure that. For today, I'm just going to hit that with our Touch Cure Light. So this way we can just freeze this one nail into place. And really 10 to 20 seconds or so is enough to set that layer into place. So then you can go on to your next. So just a quick freeze. I think I am going to grab another coat here just to make that red nice and rich for the holidays. Again, right up into our cuticle area, tucking in there, keeping that product off the skin as much as possible, and then just patting all the way through. Oops, I did get a little bit on that sidewall there. I will make sure to clean that up before I cure. But you guys, it's so easy to do this, and you're going to get really nice crisp edges all the way through. So if you don't have a steady hand, if you're somebody who, you guys, today I actually had too much coffee, so I've kind of been feeling a little shaky here. So this is actually a really easy technique for me to use if I do get shaky or anything like that. So let me just clean up this edge here real quick. And then I'm going to go one more time with my light, just freezing that into place. Now, you don't have to freeze it before you take off the masks, but I do like to freeze this into place so that I don't smudge anything when I remove those masks. So go ahead and freeze that. And then we'll grab our tweezer, and I'm just going to peel off each of those masks. And that's going to leave that beautiful crisp white in between. So I've got that really cute look of my candy cane. Looks like I did have just a tiny little bit more right up in there. Make sure to clean that up. Okay, now you guys, you could just top coat this. You could finish it just like this. But just for one more fun little add-on, you guys, it's all about bling for the holidays. So I'm going to use my nail gem stickers. And we've got a bunch of different styles of these. So if you like the idea of rhinestones, but you don't love the huge texture of them, these are absolutely amazing. If you look at them from the side, let me open these up. You can see there's not a lot of thickness to them, but you do get that look of the rhinestones. So I'm going to grab, where'd my tweezer go here? I'm going to grab a couple of different sizes. Maybe we'll grab one of the larger ones. Let's grab that larger one down there. We'll grab that larger one. I'm going to set that right in here. You guys, let me show you nice and close. I'm going to set that right in here. Set that down. Give it a good press on there. And then maybe let's grab a couple of our smaller ones here. So I'm going to grab those little tiny ones. And I love using my tweezers for this. For me, it's a lot easier. So just kind of adding a little bit of an accent to that candy cane look. And again, just popping those right off the backing. They're a sticker, you guys, so they do have that adhesive back to them. So they're going to stick down to that nail. Now, depending on if you want texture or not, you could have top coated first and then set these onto your top coated nail. But because I don't want a ton of texture, I'm going to put these on now and then we'll top coat over them and we'll go ahead and finish the nails that way. Now, last design, you guys, and then we got to get running here, but hopefully this is giving you guys some fun ideas for your holiday nails. So last one here, this one I'm actually going to apply my matte finish top coat first. So we've got our matte finish here, and we're going to go ahead and top coat that. Now, I'm going to be doing a sugared look on this one. So this is why I'm going to apply my matte finish top coat. Now, if you want the matte finish, you can have the matte finish. If you want the shiny finish, you could definitely use our high shine top coat. Let me show you guys that one here real quick. But depending on what look you're going for, whatever you're trying to do, you guys, I can't see my light there. There we go. You want to make sure that you're using a top coat that does not have a tacky finish to it. And both of these top coats that we've got now have no tacky finish. So you could, like I said, you could either use the matte finish or you could use the high shine, depending on what you want your design to look like. But for me today, I actually wanted to use the matte finish because I feel like the design we're going to do is going to get a little bit more dimension if we go with the matte. So what we're going to be using is our striping gel paint, and this one is the white. It's called T-shirt. And then the glitter we're using is called Sea Spray. Now, Sea Spray is probably one of my favorites. It is a very fine, kind of a silvery white look to it. So we're going to use that in combination with our striping paint. Now, if you guys haven't seen our striping paint, this is a gel polish or a gel paint. So it does have that skinny little striping brush in there already for you. So nice and easy. So we're going to take our nail that already has our matte finish on there. Let me come in nice and close. And we're going to create our cute little mint candy, our little peppermint candy look on there. So I'm going to take that brush out. I kind of wind it around the top to make sure that there's no gel up on that stem that's going to drip down. And then just draw out some of that extra. Okay, so we're going to grab a little bit of that. Now I'm going to kind of pick a center point and just kind of pick just a tiny little drop there. That way I kind of know exactly where I'm going. Now I'm going to actually start from the outside, and I'm going to touch my brush down. I'm going to give it just kind of a curve inward to that center point. Okay. Maybe grab a little bit more of my gel here. And you guys, you can see again, I am a little bit shaky. So I'm going to try to do these as nice and straight as I can. So just going to kind of make that a little bit wider out to the end. And then we're going to fill in that center. Take a little bit more of that gel. Start at the outside and work in. And the reason that I like to start at the outside and work in is because as I start on the outside, I have a lot more gel in that brush. And then when I get to the center, it's going to be a little bit thinner. Now I'm going to turn the hand a little bit. We're going to come in from the side here. Pick my point here, round up a little bit and down into that center. Same thing, kind of widen that base at the outside and bring into the center, creating a little bit skinnier line at the center. Okay, we're going to come back here. I think I'm going to alternate. You guys, I kind of like to alternate side to side. So this way I have a little bit better placement of my lines. Now this one we're going to start maybe right about here, round into the center. Start a little bit farther out there, round into the center. Now you guys, I'm not curing this as I go. A lot of times you'll notice that when I do hand painted designs, I do like to cure them as I go. But with the design we're doing today, we're actually going to be creating a, oh, you guys, my brain just stopped here, a sugared look. So we want to make sure that we're keeping our gel wet so that we can add that glitter on top of it. You guys, apparently I can't talk and do detailed designs at the same time. So sometimes my brain stops here as I'm as I'm trying to do very detailed work. All right, just pulling through. Clean that line up just a little bit here. All right, and we'll do one more. Down here, round in. So now you can start to see that little candy cane mint look. And if you need to, you can go through, touch up those lines a little bit more. If you like them how they are, we can move on. If you want to make them a little bit wider, kind of even things out, you can definitely do that. I think we're going to be good with that. Now, if you want a little bit more detail, you can always do a quick little line right in between. Oh, you guys see my shaky shakes? If I can do this with shaky hands, you guys, you can do it. And I'll tell you, using this striper brush works amazing. So if you haven't had the chance to work with these, I would highly recommend it. Just another quick little skinny line in between here. Now, everywhere that we have wet gel is going to adhere to our glitter. So again, if you don't want these middle lines or these little skinny lines to have glitter on them, do your glitter application first and then do your skinny lines. So lots of options here. Now again, our color is still wet. I'm going to take my glitter. I'm going to sprinkle right over the top of this. And anywhere we have that sticky wet gel, that's going to absorb the glitter and it's going to leave us with that design. So we're going to tap that off. Now, we haven't cured this one yet. I'm going to wait just a couple more seconds here. I'm going to go ahead and top coat the rest of my nails, and then we will show you guys the final look. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can join our community. And if you are new to our channel, we always do a little top coat chant at this point. So as I'm applying my top coat, you can just text or type into the chat. You can type in top coat, top coat, top coat. And those of you that have been here for a while, you know what to do. I don't need to tell you. But everybody go ahead and start our top coat chant in the chat. I'm just using our gel polish top coat to seal all of our nails here, seal in our designs, and finish up our looks. And again, you guys, I'm using our gel polish top coat. This is a tack-free top coat. And so once this is cured fully for 60 seconds, it's not going to have a tacky surface that we have to cleanse off. I am going to give you a quick little helpful hint here. Because I've been using glitter, I don't know if you guys could even see this on camera. I have a couple of little spots on my nails that did pick up a little bit of glitter from the brush. So I would highly recommend, if you're going to be doing glitter applications, that you have a separate top coat and sometimes maybe even a base coat, depending on how you're working. But have a separate base and top coat for those glitter applications. So that way when you go to top coat the rest of your nails, you're not going to end up with those little specks of glitter in there. Because especially if you were doing a solid white nail, I'll tell you guys, one little speck of glitter in that top coat is going to drive you crazy. So have a second base and top coat for those glitter applications, and that's going to make your life much easier. Now, I do have the nails in the light. I do want to make sure that our top coat does cure for a full 60 seconds. Usually when I am doing designs here for you guys, I only freeze it into place for 30 seconds, and then I like to show you the final look. But because we did have that sugared nail, I do want to make sure that that one does cure for a full 60 seconds. So that one is cured out. Now at this point, let me come in nice and close here. Our nail is cured. We have that matte finish underneath. Our glitter is cured on there. I'm just going to use my manicure brush. I'm going to dust that off, cleanse that away. And now you can see we've got that textured look with that beautiful sparkle on there for the holidays. And again, you guys, on this one, if you wanted, you could have done the coat of the shiny top coat underneath instead of that matte if you want a little bit more shine to it. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed our designs here today. Hope you had some fun. I think I am losing my voice here today, but happy holidays to you guys. Make sure to check your notifications. Make sure that you've got your notifications set so that you do know when we go live again. Our schedule may be changing up a little bit here for the holidays, but you guys, if you haven't joined us yet on our Whatnot channel, make sure to join us on Whatnot. We're going to be having a huge to-do on our Whatnot on Black Friday. So you don't want to miss that out. Miss out on that. So make sure to join us on Whatnot. Make sure to subscribe here on YouTube, and we'll